Hey y'all, you know what time it is? Get into it! I'm gonna get it right one day. There we go. Get into it. You know what time it is. It is story time with Chris. We are back. Yes, we are back. Which is actually a good movie. We're Back, a dinosaur story. Really good movie. For those who grew up watching that movie. We'll talk about it later. But I hope everybody's having a good night. For those who have joined me on Instagram with my reading of The Last Unicorn, thank you so much. You know, this is just a fun activity to not only to keep me motivated and busy and to entertain you all, but it also, excuse me. It's just a fun activity for me. I love to read. I love literature. I live for it. So, I know that a couple of people have been messaging me, asking me where the next set of episodes for the Redwall series on the YouTube channel. I've been having some difficulties with my phone at the moment, but I have found a solution, so I will make sure those get posted tonight. I promise you that. But I've had a really great day today. Went to the gym, cooked an awesome breakfast as you saw on Facebook and Instagram. I love to cook. I love to cook and just do for myself and do for other people. It's nice. There's nothing wrong with liking being domestic. I know a lot of people would frown upon that. These neo-feminists that believe there's something demeaning about keeping house or wanting to be someone who is well versed in all things domestic. I love to cook. I love to clean. I like to sew. I like to work out. I like to read. I like to knit what I used to knit, which I still have my knitting needles. I just have no yarn, which could totally change because there is definitely a Michael's nearby, as well as a Joanne Fabrics. Delicious. I do not own the music that you are listening to in the background. Muscles. I'm working hard, y'all. I'm working hard. Bam. Yeah. Trying to, at least. Like I said, I'm trying to get this Lara Croft Tomb Raider body, this Selena Kyle sleekness going on. But without further ado, I will begin. Chapter 8. Clooney lay with his one good eye half open. From beneath its slitted lid he watched Seela the vixen. The sly old devil was definitely up to something. He was certain of it. Clooney had secretly questioned Fangburn about the conversation that had gone on between Seela and her son. There was no doubt about it. The foxes were trying to dupe the warlord. Clooney had cursed Fangburn for 20 different kinds of an idiot, fancying not being able to read and allowing Seela to write out a message. Indeed, letting Chickenhound go free without first getting the scroll read. If he had been a little fitter, he would have personally slain his oafish captain. But as it was, Clooney kept silent about it all. Even if Seela was playing a double game, he needed the fox's healing powers to regain his health and strength. Meanwhile, Clooney the Scourge made his own counter-espionage moves. He allowed Seela to minister to his wounds, but he secretly stopped taking the herbs and potions to help him sleep. Early next morning, Chickenhound returned. He carried a bag laden with medicinal ingredients. Clooney feigned sleep, but secretly observed the foxes closely. They nodded and winked at each other quite a bit. When they were reasonably sure he was asleep, the two held a hurried, whispered conversation, and though unfortunately he could not hear what they said, their behavior was secretive enough to make Clooney sure he was right. They were planning a double-cross. Clooney did not tell any of his officers of his suspicions. He kept everything to himself. This way there could be no possible leak of secrets. Clooney was content to watch and wait, getting a little stronger each day. And after a while he came up with a fiendishly simple idea. He ordered that the room be cleared. He wished to be alone so that he could rest. When he was quite sure that he would not be disturbed, Clooney took a quill and parchment from the bedside table. He drew a diagram complete with pointing arrows, horde positions, lines of attack and defense, together with written instructions. It was a plan for the second full-scale invasion of Redwall Abbey. Clooney made it clear that the success of the attack depended solely on the battering ram breaking through the main gate. When he had finished writing, Clooney pushed the parchment underneath his pillow, taking care to leave just a small corner of it jutting out. His officers would be too slow and dull to notice it. A tiny scrap of parchment showing from beneath the pillow. Even if they should, they would attach no importance to it. But Seela the fox would. Clooney settled down to wait. Redtooth and Fangbird returned with their captive guest an hour later. Clooney stretched himself luxuriously and yawned aloud. "Ah, I had a nice pleasant nap without you three clattering around the room and creating a noise. How's that tree felling coming along?" Redtooth leaned upon his spear. "Shouldn't take much longer now, Chief. I've ordered some of them to get a good blaze going so that the trunk can be fired and hardened." Clooney flexed his injured tail slowly. "Good. Make sure that all the large branches are cut off close to the trunk. It'll make it easier to carry. Now, Fox, how about changing these bandages and giving me something to make me sleep tonight? That stuff you gave me yesterday wasn't much use. I was tossing and turning for hours before I got any rest." Seela made a sweeping servile curtsy. "Now that my son has brought my new ingredients, I can certainly give you medicine to make you sleep, sir. I guarantee you'll go off like a bug in a blanket, if you'll pardon the expression, sir." "Just as long as it gets me to sleep," said Clooney, smiling inwardly. That night, Clooney allowed Redtooth and Fangbird to guzzle their fill from a cask of barley wine that had been found in the church cellars. He gave Seela permission to drink also. Clooney watched as the fox pretended to drink as much of the barley wine as the rat captains. While she was doing this, Clooney also pretended to take his sleeping medicine. Clooney and Seela continued with their pantomime, neither letting a drop pass their lips. It was late night. Clooney joined in the snores of his drunken officers. The room was comfortably warm. A lone candle flickered in its socket. Clooney felt the pillow move slightly. Seela was taking the bait. Clooney gave a big imitating snore and smacked his lips contentedly. Someday he must learn to play chess. He bet himself that he would be unbeatable. Clooney also made a wager with himself that the plaids would be back, safely tucked under the pillow by morning, and that Seela would have an accurate copy of them hidden away somewhere. Now he could catch a few hours' sleep. No doubt the mice would be interested to learn of his scheme to attack the main gate with a battering ram. They would strengthen the gatehouse and deploy the main body of defenders in the immediate area. Clooney could have laughed out loud. While they were defending the gate, he would be tunneling under the southwestern corner of the Abbey wall. Chapter 9. The deep, warm, brazen voice of the Joseph bell tolled across the tranquil meadows, its echoes fading in the leafy depths of the moss-flower wood. It was 11 o'clock on the night of the full moon, which is ironic because tonight is the full moon on my favorite day of the week. And hi, Janae. Hi, sweetheart. I hope your week is going great, dear. Love you. It's been too long since we've talked. Inside Cavern Hold, the candles burned bright. Most of their woodland defenders and Redwall mice had retired to their beds. Those who preferred to stay awake were gathered by invitation of Matthias and Methuselah to a party supper. All who attended wished them well on their quest. Abbot Mortimer took the floor. "My friends, Redwall mice, and honored guests, we are gathered here tonight not only to pay tribute, but to add our heartfelt good wishes to Matthias and brother Methuselah. May they have success and fortune in their venture this night, and may our abbey soon be enhanced by the restoration of the sword that belonged to Martin the warrior." The abbey took its seat among cries of "Hear, hear!" There was much paw-shaking and fur-patting. Matthias felt deeply honored, but very, very impatient. The hourglass had to empty twice more before the crucial time he waited. He stole a sideways glance at his companion. Methuselah could hardly stop his eyelids from dropping. The hard work they had done, combined with the nervous tension which were beginning to tell upon the old gatehouse keeper, Matthias nudged him gently. "Wake up, old one, if you're tired." If you're tired, I'll help you in your room. Constance and I can take the shield up to the threshold. You get a good night's sleep. We'll tell you about it in the morning. Methuselah came wide awake with indignation.
You'll do nothing of the sort, you young scallywag. I give you a 10-second start and still beat you to the top of the wall. Do you want to try me?
Constance coughed and spluttered upon a candy chestnut. She roared with laughter. I wouldn't admit it if I were you, Matthias. He's liable to beat you hollow in his present mood. The old mouse, seeing the humor of his situation, began to chuckle.
And don't think I couldn't, you great stripy lump. Here, what do you say we put this young mouse up in the dormitory? It's way past his bedtime. You and I could go to the threshold together.
Constance and Methuselah collapsed against each other, laughing helplessly. It was all Matthias could do to keep a straight face. He pretended to take offense at Methuselah's statement. Why, you old pair of relics! It wouldn't take me 2 ticks to bring you some warm milk and tuck you into your own beds. Then I'd be free to get on with the job myself. The 3 friends laughed until tears streamed down their face. Methuselah held his sides as he spoke between gusts of merriment.
I say, Constance, you old fogey. Oh, you'd better come along with us. Matthias is a bit too old for this sort of thing.
Matthias had fallen off his chair. He waved his paws, pleading for the joking to stop, as he rolled about on the floor, exploding with bouts of giggling to fits of laughter, which, first of all, if you're able to cry while you're laughing, you know it's a really good joke or a really good laugh. I'm just saying. Basil Staghair tut-tutted severely as he remarked to Ambrose Pike, dreadful table manners. Just look at those 3 kicking up a hullabaloo like that. Eating's a serious business. They haven't touched a bit of supper, you know. Ah, so I see, grunted the hedgehog. Here, you don't suppose they'd mind, do you? Not at all, dear fellow, said Basil regally, as he shared the contents of the 3 plates between himself and Ambrose. Saves it all going to waste, what? It was 15 minutes before 1 o'clock in the morning. 3 figures crossed the Abbey gardens as the moon poured from behind a drifting cloud bank. The nearby pond was bathed in a silver sheen, parts of the sandstone wall reflecting back a wavery bluish light. Constance and Methuselah carried lanterns. Matthias bore the warrior's shield upon his arm. They descended the wall steps in a single file, acknowledging the murmured good wishes of those on sentry duty. Matthias had decided against trying the shield in its niche before the appointed hour. He felt somehow that they must abide by the rules of the verse, waiting until day's first hour on the night of the full moon. It just had to be so. No use tempting fickle Dame Fortune. Solemnly, the 3 friends gathered around the carving upon the ramparts. Matthias clutched the shield tightly, waiting for the stroke of 1. High above the small world of Redwall, the moon also waited, suspended in velvety space like a pale gold coin. It seemed that the minutes stretched into an eternity in which silence reigned over all. The great Joseph bell boomed out once. It was 1 o'clock, day's first hour. Slowly, reverently, Matthias lowered the shield of Martin down onto the stone circle that had been carved many long years before to receive it. The shield made a mild clanking sound as it was laid to rest in its niche. It fitted perfectly into the stone receptacle. All 3 creatures stood back a pace to see what might happen. Matthias was first to cry out, "Look! The shield is reflecting the moonlight back into the sky!" The moonlight seemed to concentrate upon the high-polished steel dome in its designated position, sending an intense beam of white light back into the night sky. Methuselah blinked, holding his paws against his eyebrows. He stared into space, trying to follow the path of the reflected moonlight.
Truly it is a most beautiful, wondrous sight. Alas, my old eyes are not what they were. All I see is a light shooting off into infinity.
Wait, look at the abbey roof, Constance murmured. The beam cuts right across the top gable. I can see the weather vane as clearly as if it were day. Good heavens, Matthias squeaked. You're right. The Abbey weather vane. It's the only thing that's caught in the moon path of the light.
The north, the north, Methuselah shouted. It's the weather vane arm that points north. That's where the sword must be.
Solemnly, the three friends placed their paws one on top of the other. At last, the mystery was solved. They knew now where the sword of Martin had been for countless years, on the arm of a weather vane, pointing north. However, it was three rather disconsolate creatures that sat down to early breakfast after a few hours' fitful sleep. They had encountered a major problem. How to get the sword down. What a pity we haven't got about 30 or 40 extra long ladders we could tie together to reach the roof, muttered Constance. Oh, do be quiet, Constance, Matthias grumbled. That must be the 10th time you've said that in the last hour. Sorry, only trying to help, she mumbled. Methuselah pushed his porridge aside.
There are only two ways that you could help, my friend. One, by keeping silent. Two, by turning yourself into some creature that could climb up all the way up to that roof. A bird or a squirrel or something.
They sat and stared at Methuselah in amazement. A solution of stunning simplicity had been found. I do hope that Mrs. Squirrel hasn't decided to sleep in, said Matthias. She'll need an early start if she's going to make it back by lunchtime. Miss Squirrel, or Jess as she liked to be called, was only too pleased to oblige her friends from Redwall. Having been given full instructions by Matthias, Jess stood at the base of the immense Abbey building. The squirrel performed what looked like an intricate acrobatic dance, followed by several cartwheels at lightning speed. She's just limbering up, Mr. Squirrel explained to Matthias. A large crowd of mice and woodlanders had gathered to witness the epic ascent. Not even in the oldest recorded writings was there any mention of a creature venturing to climb as high as the Abbey roof. It was a most formidable task, for the roof soared to nearly twice the height of the bell tower. Jess elbowed her way through the throng. She kissed Mr. Squirrel, patted her son Silent Sam upon the head, then shook paws with Constance, Matthias, and Methuselah. With a brisk, cheery manner, she scooped up a handful of soil, rubbing it into her paws to give some extra gripping power. Lovely day for a climb, she remarked offhandedly. Then away she went, paw over paw, up the massive Abbey face. The lower wall with its arched sandstone window frames held no difficulties for the tough squirrel. She climbed with speed and I've never seen this word before. My apologies. Alacrity, alacrity, A-L-A-C-R-I-T-Y, alacrity, lifting herself over the gutter with a neat flick of her bushy tail. Jess clattered across to a small, slat side roof. She was temporarily lost to view at the start of the second stage. As she came into sight again, the watchers below could not help but notice that the climb was more difficult. Progress was slower. Mr. Squirrel cupped his paws and called up, "Are you all right there, Jess?" Latching her tail around a projecting gargoyle, Jess shouted back, "Well, I'm making headway, my dear. This stone, though, it's been rough on the old paws and claws, not like good old wood or tree bark." Chins went up, heads tilted back. The crowd below followed the ascent of the plucky Jess Squirrel, but this time she seemed to the watchers to be rapidly diminishing in size as she forged upwards. Foremost covered his eyes with a paw. "Grr, my dearie, my, see him looking an owly bird always up there. Nay am I fear to look." Although Matthias had agreed with Foremost, he continued looking upwards. Jess was reduced to a mere speck now. The young mouse gritted his teeth, willing the brave squirrel onwards. "Go on, Jess, you can do it! No, not far to the gable now." The crowd fell silent. All they could be heard was Silent Sam sucking his tiny paws. He clutched onto his father's tail. Suddenly, Winifred the otter broke the quiet. "Look, Jess has made it over the gutter. She's on the roof." A mass cheer went up. The squirrel was on the last lap. Now she would have to call into play all of her climbing ability to keep going up the treacherously steep, smooth slates. Methuselah polished agitatedly at his spectacles. "Where is she now? Who will someone please enlighten me?" She's on top of the roof, walking with a foot either side of the apex towards the gable!" yelled Abbot Mortimer. Methuselah sniffed.
"No need to shout, Father. I'm only hard of sight, not hearing."
Clap back 4 days. Shout out to Brother Methuselah. Mr. Squirrel clapped his paws joyfully. "Oh, she's made it! My Jess has made it!" Amid the riot of jubilation, Matthias watched the weather vane move slightly, indicating that Jess, actually out upon the north pointer, must be trying to retrieve the sword. What a daring climb! What a courageous creature! Jess Squirrel would surely take her place in the annals of Redwall Abbey. Mr. Squirrel held Silent Sam up in his arms. "Look, Sam! Mom's done it! She's on the way back down now!" Silent Sam clenched his little paws over his head. He shook them like a tiny champion. Nobody in all the world was a better climber than his mother. Matthias waited for a glimpse of the sword, but Jess was not halfway down. With a shout of consternation arose from the cloud below. "Look out! She's being attacked by sparrows!" Sure enough, the fierce birds were whirling in close to the intrepid Jess. They tried to peck at her, seeking to dislodge her or distract her enough to make her fall. It was a fearsome, sickening drop should she lose her grip. Matthias took command. He acted swiftly. "Hurry! Get the 6 best field and harvest mouse archers! Those birds have got to be stopped immediately!" The angry sparrows persisted with their savage assault. Jess kept on descending resolutely. She could seem to defend herself. The abbot and Constance had to leap forward to restrain Silent Sam. He had left his father, was trying to scramble up the base of the abbey wall with a small dagger clenched in his teeth. The abbot and Constance attempted to reason with Sam. "Stay clear, little one. You'll only distract your mum. Look, she's doing splendidly. An old bunch of sparrows can't bother her. Stand back now. Here come the bow mice." Speedily notching shaft to the strings, the archers angled their bows upwards. "Do not aim to kill any of the birds," the abbot cried. "Shoot to frighten them." "Shoot!" Matthias yelled. The first volley of arrows were launched. They fell short of the sparrows. Jess carried on scrambling downwards, beating off attackers whenever she had a free paw. "They're getting away within range now!" shouted Matthias. "Aim! Fire!" The mouse archers sent off a hail of arrows that came close enough to cause a scattering among the sparrows. Taking advantage of their brief confusions, Jess clambered down to the small side roof. The tenacious birds regrouped and came at her again. Below, the bow mice stood ready. "She'll make it down," Ambrose Spike yelled. "One more good volley should have scared them off." "Ready! Fire!" cried Matthias. The deadly shaft hissed upwards, causing a mad flurry among the attackers. Purely by accident, a stray arrow struck one young sparrow. It came tumbling down the slope of the small roof, dropping to earth like a stone, the arrow sticking in its leg just above the knee joint. Cheated of their intended victim, the sparrows flew off, chirping bad-temperedly. Constance snatched up a woven rush washing basket. Holding the small sparrow firmly with her paw, she gripped the arrow in her teeth, yanked it clear from the bird's leg. The badger then upended the basket, imprisoned the maddened sparrow beneath it. She put it right on top. Shouts of joy mingled with relief greeted Jess Squirrel as she dropped wearily to the grass. She gasped. "What a wild bunch of savages those birds are. Thought they had me once or twice back there." Before the heroic squirrel could be united with her family, Matthias came dashing across. "Jess, where's the sword?" he panted. The squirrel shrugged and shook her head. "It wasn't there, Matthias. I climbed out along the north porters, actually saw the shape of the sword in the holder where it was supposed to be. There were even some loose, rusty wires that may have held it in position at one time or another. But there was definitely no sword. I'm sorry, Matthias. I tried my best." "Of course you did, Jess," said Matthias, hiding his disappointment. "Thank you very much for your valiant efforts." Half an hour later, the crowd had dispersed and gone about their business. Matthias sat with his back against the wall, his mind in turmoil. All that hard work, solving the clues, burning midnight oil, endangering the lives of his friends, it had all come to nothing. He beat his paws against the stones of the abbey, a tear of frustration gleaming in his eye. "Why, Martin? Why?" he moaned. The captive sparrow fluttered her wings against the upturned basket. "I kill you!" she chanted angrily at Matthias. "I kill you, mouse! Let Warbeak free, you dirty worm!" Matthias peered through the cracks of the insulting prisoner. "Oh, shut your beak, you little monster," he muttered. "You're in no position to kill anyone." The sparrow's venomous temper increased. "King Bull Sparrow! He kill you! Make dead quick fast!" Matthias laughed mirthlessly. "Will he indeed? Will you tell King Thingamagummy, if he should bump into him again, that you've met Matthias the warrior? Oh, don't kill that easily, my bad-tempered little friend." This last statement set the young sparrow off in a veritable dance of rage. "Mouse no friend of Warbeak! Kill it! They have a very strange dialect, apparently, the sparrow folk. Matthias tapped the basket with his foot. "Listen, Warbeak, if that's your name, you better improve your temper, or you'll find yourself without food to eat or any medical attention. So if I were you, I'd sit quietly for a while and think about that." Matthias spun on his heel and marched off, the enemy sparrow's chirp still ringing in his ear. "No want of food, no needed testing. Warbeak sparrow, all brave, kill it!" Matthias sighed wearily. There was just no talking to some creatures. And that is where we will end for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope y'all had a great time. Please enjoy the rest of the night of this full moon. Ah, the children of the night, what music they make. Thank you so much for coming, y'all. I hope you enjoy these. Like, share, and subscribe on the YouTube channel. I'll see you next time.